Welcome everyone, and hope everyone's having a awesome day. And ought to be 2 o'clock. I'm coming to you from across the ditch at the moment, so it's only 12 o'clock where I am. But good afternoon. Hope everyone's having a awesome day. And yeah, welcome to the Prosper, or the I should say, Great Australia Prosper Career Super Fair in New Zealand. And I guess to start us off, we're gonna just give you a bit of an idea as to what today's going to look like. We're going to run through a bit of a panel session with some lovely women, both named Emma, which is always good fun. But you're going to have a chance to interview them, and then after this, they're going to both have the chance as well to run through a bit of a presentation about their about what they're offering, and also a little bit about their company. So I will bring on Emma Bryant from Mainfreight. So hello, Emma Bryant. If you want to come on. Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. And then I'm going to bring on Emma Hissey as well. Here we go. Here you are. Hey, how are you?
Kia ora. Good, thank you.
Good to see you both. So thank you for joining me today. Really looking forward to this. And I've got a couple of questions which I want to lay out. But just before I jump into those questions, it'd be great if you could introduce sort of who you are, sort of where you're from, and maybe just a little bit about the organization that you are working for. Whichever Emma would like to go.
I don't mind kicking off. Yeah, you go, Emma.
Awesome. Go for it.
So tēnā koutou katoa, ko Emma toku ingoa, he kaitohu tohu mātua o, e mahi ana o ki Waka Kotahi, e roto i te pūmanawa tangata. So kia ora everyone, I'm Emma Hissey at Waka Kotahi. I'm the team lead of the Emerging Professionals program here. So if you were successful in coming on board in our graduate program, I'd be the one who kind of oversaw and made sure that everything ran smoothly for you from coming into the organisation to progressing through your rotations. And in terms of what we do at Waka Kotahi, so we are the kaitiaki of the New Zealand transport system. So we aspire to a land transport system connecting people, products and places to a thriving Aotearoa. So yeah, that's everything from transport on our roads to rail, to public transport, to cycling and walking as well.
Awesome. I'll go next. My name's Emma. I work in the training and development team here at Mainfreight. We're based in Auckland, and I bring on grads into the business. So I interview grads and hire them into the business, and then look after them throughout their period in the graduate program. In terms of what Mainfreight does, we are a global supply chain company. We're in 26 countries across the world. And we look after warehousing, transport and air and ocean divisions within New Zealand. And we have a couple other businesses underneath us, which include Daily Freight, Chem Couriers, Owens Transport. So we bring freight into New Zealand in imports, and we can store freight for customers, and then we transport it around the country all the way from Kaitaia to Invercargill. We have branches. So offering that end-to-end supply chain solution for the customer.
I have a fun fact on that. Can I jump in?
Go for it.
Yeah, go.
So 93% of freight is moved by road here in New Zealand. Just thought that was huge.
It is a big amount. I thought there'd be more by rail.
Yeah, rail, plane, I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to be that high, but there you go.
There you go. How good. Love that. Epic. One question, because obviously there'll be a few grads on today, and we're just going to record it to send it out to a few. So just out of curiosity, sort of what type of advice would you give to any graduates, whether engineering, construction, whatever type of degree they'd have, and they're looking to work in the transport and sort of logistics sector? What would be sort of some advice that you would offer to a new graduate looking to work in the space?
So probably my main piece of advice would be to understand that the industry is hard work. It never sleeps really, and it's never going away. Freight is only getting bigger, and transport is only getting bigger, and the more freight that comes into New Zealand, it needs to be moved somewhere. So it is hard work, and it's important to get stuck in. And I know for in our business, it's important to not be too precious because it can involve some physical work. Our core of our business is, and the industry is moving freight physically. So yeah, just knowing that it can be quite hard work in our business, long hours.
Yeah, and I would just say be open and curious. So take time to learn about the organisation and the organisation's place within the sector. So do your research, jump on their website, look at their LinkedIn page if they have one, maybe even see if you can find some connections, someone who knows someone who works there, and ask if you could be connected with them to find out a bit more. And just on that, I guess you don't need to be an expert and know everything when you arrive. You just need to be keen to learn. So being curious to finding out more through asking great questions is super helpful.
Awesome. Ask better quality questions, get better quality answers. And It's always about obviously who you know, not necessarily what you know a lot of the time. So using those networking skills is super helpful.
Absolutely.
And what is your application? What is your organization looking for in an application? So if a graduate is applying and they're looking for roles, what are a couple key signs that you're sort of looking for in that application?
Definitely, like Emma mentioned before, understanding what you're applying for and showing that you've done some research into the industry and to the business that you're applying for. I know that Mainfreight has quite strong values that we really adhere to on a day-to-day basis. So me knowing that you align with those values and it's something that you can be passionate about is what really stands out to me in an application.
Yeah, just ditto on that really. So finding out what the organisation's values are, and you can often find those on their website, and having a think about and being able to articulate what those mean to you and how you might apply those values in your work. I mean, most of ours, they really resonate with me, so hopefully they resonate with others, but they're all there, so you can have a bit of a read and have a think about whether that's something that you want to go into work each day and live by those values. And if the answer is no, then it's probably not quite the right organisation for you, but if it is yes, then having a think about how that resonates and how you might live those values each day.
Awesome. And even just on those values, maybe if you could walk us through like maybe 2 or 3 of what those values are for both ends, both Mainfreight and Waka Kotahi.
Yeah, I can kick off. So for us, we have Ngako Aroha, which is have heart. So just coming into work every day, thinking about other people and just, really having that big open heart, and just being kind and caring and considerate. We have Kotahitanga, which is better together. So that collaboration piece. Kia maia, be brave. So challenge yourself, be bold, give things a go. And mahia, which is nail it. And that's all about delivery.
Awesome.
Cool. So Mainfreight has what we call our 3 pillars, which we live and breathe by. Their culture, family, and philosophy. So in terms of culture, that's our everyday acts and our integrity and the things that we live by in our branches and in the country. Family, we all eat lunch together. We look at each other as brothers and sisters, and you sometimes do fight with your family, but you always become friends again. And philosophy, in terms of our service and our quality and our bread and butter that we provide as a service to our customers.
Awesome. And for students who are fortunate enough to actually land a role with Mainfreight or is on transport, what sort of advice, I guess 2 questions. What does a typical day in the life look like? And then from there also, any advice that you would add to actually help them thrive in that sort of first year? Because obviously it's quite difficult coming from 4 years potentially of studying into a full-time role. So any advice that you'd also add?
Did you want to kick off, Emma?
Yes, I can do. So in a day in a life for a grad in the business, it can look quite different depending on which division you've been placed in or which branch really. So in our 3 different divisions, warehousing, transport, and air and ocean, they look a little bit different. So in transport, You'd be working in the operation for the first period of your program, and we say that's for about 12 months. So that looks like getting your forklift license and loading and unloading trucks, rail units, loading and unloading containers, dealing with drivers and our store team and our customer services, dispatching freight, labeling freight, all that good operations stuff. In warehousing, we store freight for customers, so it would be picking and packing orders, dispatching those to the customers using our trucks to deliver them, an element of customer service, dealing with stock inventory, stock levels, and relaying that to the customer. And in air and ocean, it's a little bit more admin based because they don't have depots like our transport and our warehousing branches, but it is very operational in terms of the work that you're doing. So it would be things like booking freight coming over in airlines and shipping lines, getting those bookings, organising import paperwork, export paperwork, and things like trade facilitation between countries. So yeah, we start everyone in the operations because we need them to learn the fundamentals of the business and of the supply chain, so that when they do move throughout the business, they have that fundamental operations knowledge so that they can make good decisions for the customer and for Mainfreight and for the team. So yeah, it's very operational based to begin with. And yeah, and then just some advice that I would give to a grad who, to make them survive and thrive, is to get stuck in, to say yes to opportunities, and to not look at a side step as a bad move, because every step that you make, you're learning and you're developing and you're bringing that knowledge into every other role that you have in the business. So just to be patient. Your pathway to where you want to get to may not always be linear, but we think it's very valuable to grab each opportunity with both hands.
So a day in the life of a grad at Waka Kotahi, yeah, again, it's going to look very, very different depending on what you come into the organisation and what you've studied. So we have engineers and planners, we have policy, marketing, comms, HR. I could go on. There's so many different opportunities, so it will look quite different. In saying that, it's going to look very different to the roles that Emma's just shared, in that you will be sat at an office for pretty much all of those roles. So it'll be meeting people, attending meetings, and then depending on what your role is, getting stuck into some of the work, learning the ropes, shadowing others, and seeing how they operate in meetings and what they do, sitting alongside others and being shown how to do specific things, and yeah, learning how we operate within government as well, and how we sit and fit and what we can and can't do based on our responsibilities there too. In terms of advice to survive and thrive in your first year, so definitely ask questions if you're unsure. I know for a lot of our graduates, it's easy to think that everyone is really super busy, especially when they're sat at their desks and they're typing away or in meetings. But just a reminder that we've all started out at some point in our career, and it's really hard for others to know when you might need help or assistance if you don't speak up and ask. So just a little bit of a challenge there to definitely ask questions along the way when you don't know. And just to really be prepared to give things a go and think about what the learnings are from the experiences that you do get exposure to. Some of those experiences will be great ones, others may not be so awesome, but there's learnings in that too, right? So just seeing what you can take from that, what you can learn from that, how you could do things differently next time, or just reflecting on what kind of came your way, and learn and grow from that. And be friendly, open to making connections, and just think about how you show up as well, both in person and virtually. sometimes we forget that in a virtual environment, others can still see us. So just making sure that, we're acting and behaving in a way that we might do in an in-person environment for that too.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Even on that topic, in terms of like virtual, living in a virtual sort of reality world now, what sort of steps has Mainfreight and New Zealand Transport sort of taken to offer, like, have we offered sort of more flexibility to staff, and just any anything that you have sort of put in place to adapt to new COVID and post-COVID times?
Yeah, so a lot of our work is very hands-on, so it physically can't be done from home, and we can't unload and load trucks from home. So we have to kind of adapt and put in things that are going to keep our team safe. So we do things like split shifts, where we split our teams into two, and for example, if one team has COVID, the other team is going to be less likely to get it. We have a very people-oriented culture to begin with. So when COVID came around, people were already a really top priority for us. So just leaning on that, making sure that all of our teams are okay. We have a register for people who are affected by COVID in the business, so checking up on them and making sure they're all good. But yeah, like I said, because our job, the nature of the industry that we're in, it is very difficult to do from home. So yeah, we've kind of had to work around that, but being an essential service, it's one of those things that needs to continue. And obviously everyone's seen supply chain issues at the supermarket, which have been heavily affected. So yeah, we just need to keep things moving in that terms.
And we're kind of the opposite in some respects, in that we have offices across the country, and what that also means is that many teams are also dispersed across the country. So in some respects it's not too new for us operating in that virtual hybrid environment, because many of our teams were already doing that anyway. So we have definitely given more flexibility in terms of flexible working, so being able to work from home, being able to choose your hours, so to speak. So we've got core hours, and if you're an early riser, you're welcome to start a bit earlier and finish a bit earlier. Same vein, if you're a night owl, you can start a bit later, finish a bit later. So it's just working in with your manager and your team to see what might be appropriate. And some of our grads, for example, based in Auckland, and have been spending a week down in Wellington visiting relatives and coming into our office down here. So quite used to operating in that manner in terms of face-to-face virtual, and having catch-ups both in person and online. And our grad cohort meets regularly virtually, and then we aim to come together at least once a year in person too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have that flexibility to be a night owl or not to be a night owl. And just to sort of echo as well, something that Emma mentioned is that Mainfreight's always been a company which puts people first, and I look after some Mainfreight in Australia, but also had a good chat with Emma beforehand. We were talking about automation, and something which is always common across the Mainfreight is that when it comes to automation, that always their first priority is this going to take away jobs? If it is, we're not going to do it. And we're always going to make sure that we put, and I'm assuming it's probably similar with you as well, Emma Hissy, but just something I've always found with Mainfreight, which I really respected. But I guess moving from that question, so going down the route of, like, maybe if you could share sort of how big the organization is, like how many employees there are, and also, I guess, what are some of the benefits from working in an organization of that size?
Yeah, so Waka Kotahi is around 2,500, and yeah, what are the benefits of working for an organisation that size? Well, just the types of roles that we do, and that most of those roles can be done from a variety of different locations. So our program is rotational. You do 3 8-month rotations over 2 years. So it is a chance to really try before you buy. So if you did a double degree, for example, and you're not quite sure which way you'd like to go, then you can absolutely try both teams. And yeah, I guess the number of employees is helpful too, because there's more people to connect with, and yeah, to really grow that network and hopefully find someone that you click with along the way.
Oh, yeah, so Mainfreight has a really huge promote from within culture. We don't advertise our roles externally other than our store team roles. And that's because we invest in our people very heavily, and our training and development spans very wide across the country. So we heavily promote from within to bring people from those operations roles throughout the business into other roles. You won't be competing with people from other businesses. And it also means that when somebody moves on from a role, that role is now available to everyone in the business to try something new, maybe even at another branch or even overseas if that's what they're interested in. And we have 10,300 team worldwide, and in New Zealand, I think there's about 3,000.
Perfect. Going down the route of into like the hiring process, if somebody is looking to apply, do you do a like a background sort of research on an applicant before hiring them? And if you do, what sites are you looking at, like social media, or what does that look like?
I don't think we do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we don't, but that would really be a question for my recruitment team. I'm not 100% sure.
That's
sorry.
Okay. That's all good.
Usually I look at LinkedIn to see kind of a little bit more about the applicant. We do things like staff checks, like background checks. We do criminal checks, ACC checks, and we do a drug and alcohol pre-employment test for all of our new team.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And even staying on that topic for a second, do you have any tips? And I think you should be able to answer this as well, Emma, but for a graduate coming in to do an interview, like any tips that you'd have to prepare for before that said interview?
Yeah, and so I really, it stands out to me a lot when people have good questions to ask, when people bring up Mainfreight 3 pillars, and they can maybe relate it to something in their life. Probably, yeah, just showing that they're interested in the role and they know what the role is. They're not, sometimes when you are in an interview and they say, oh, what was this one for again, or something like that. Just showing that they know exactly what they're applying for and that it's what they want to do. Yeah, being prepared, looking well presented in the interview, putting on a shirt, not wearing a t-shirt, yeah, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely all that good stuff. Yeah, so I'm similar here in terms of knowing what our values are and being able to connect with those. That's key for us, coming prepared, having a think about what some previous examples are. So, you know, often there'll be a question around teamwork, a question around facing a difficult situation, challenging situation, and how you navigated that. There's a few questions that I think you could probably have a think about how you might respond to in advance, and then use the STAR technique to formulate that answer, which is describing the situation, the task, the action, and the result. So I think if you can have a think in advance and clearly articulate that in the interview, then our interview panel will definitely appreciate and view that as well thought out, constructed responses.
Yep, awesome. Yeah, that STAR advice is really good. Actually having situations that have happened in the back of your mind that are ready to share, and having a few good quality questions to ask as well as can be helpful. In terms of, I had a question come through. I don't really understand the question, but you might. They said, do you also have a logistics interview, and any tips on how to pass a logistics interview? Thank you.
We don't. So that might be a question for you, Emma.
And I'm presuming they mean if they're interested in a role in logistics, but all of our interviews for graduates are done by myself, and they're all very general. I'm basically just trying to get a background of the person and see if they'd be a good fit for the business and if the business would be a good fit for them. So they are very general, and just trying to see what the person's like, and if they were, it's something that they're interested in, kind of thing. Yeah, so no specific interviews for a logistics role.
On that, I'm not sure if Emma Hesse, if you know sort of what the interview process looks like for New Zealand Transport in terms of what that process. Yeah, if you walk through that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So the recruitment process as well as the interview process.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So it starts by applying with a CV and then completing some questions on our online platform. So you don't actually need a cover letter to apply. That's optional. You're welcome to, but you don't need it. From there, you would progress through to psychometric assessment, and it's a gamified assessment. You pop some balloons, for example. So that one takes about 45 minutes. And that's measuring cognitive ability and also values alignment and fit. And from there, you go on to a one-way video interview. So you'd have a couple of questions and then you'd have some time to prep, and then you'd speak to the camera, and that's all reviewed in-house by our talent team. And if you were successful then you would go through to a panel interview. So you'd have two or three people on the panel, a couple of which would be technical experts in your field. So that's also a great opportunity for you to ask them some great questions around what it's like to work in that particular area within Waka Kotahi and what the opportunities are within that area. And that's where you'll be asked some of those behavioural based interview questions, and having those pre-prepared responses where possible, and trying to think through STAR for those would be helpful.
Yeah, ours is pretty straightforward. So I would receive applications via places like Grad NZ, and there'll be a cover letter and a CV, and I'd be vetting those and inviting people for a video interview or an in-person interview, depends kind of on COVID levels and where they are in the country. And then that's a very general interview, just getting a feel of the person. And then from then, I would kind of see which branch they would be suited to and which area of the country they would like to have a role in. And then I would pass their application on to the branch manager of whichever branch has been matched with them. And the branch manager would have a face-to-face interview with the person and give them some more specifics about the role. And it's a good opportunity for the person to ask those specific questions at that point. And then the branch manager will be the one to offer the role to the person.
Awesome. And just a quick one as well, what would be that time frame from, let's say, putting in an application to finding out whether or not I've received the job?
And so Mainfreight hires on demand, so especially in our busy season, which comes up October, November. But we are looking for people who can start within the next month or two. So ours is quite a quick process. So from within sending an application in, they could be hired within the next week, depending on kind of when the interview is set. But yeah, I'd say it was a matter of a week or two for that kind of process.
Wow. Ours probably isn't quite that quick, but in saying that, it does move fast. So I can see Emily's now online too. So Emily sits within our talent team, so she could perhaps answer the question from before in regards to background checks. Yeah. Yep. And in terms of timeliness of process, our applications were open in March, so they've closed for the year. However, Emily was screening those applications as they came in and progressing through to psych assessment immediately. So there was very little lag time there. And from start to finish, I think it would be 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know if we can hand over to Emily to confirm.
Let's add her in. Hey, Emily.
Hello. How is everyone?
Good. Welcome to the panel.
Good. Yeah, I didn't actually intend to join the panel, but here I am. So yes, we went live mid-March, and we are currently through to the second stage of assessment. So we'll shortly be moving to interview stage. From there, it's just interviewing for about a week, and then after that, we make pretty quick decisions and progress through to background checking stage. So all up, we generally try to aim for maybe 6 to 8 weeks, just depending. Obviously, this year we're kind of working with a couple of public holidays, so we're a little bit flex in terms of that. In terms of background checking, I'm guessing you're just wanting to know the general stuff about that. So the basic checks that we do for all of our candidates are a demerit suspension history check, which is on the driver's license, and a Ministry of Justice criminal conviction check as well. And then just the 2 usual reference checks, just as per usual, any standard recruitment. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks for that, Emily. How's that? We've got an Emma, an Emily. We need some name diversity here, I think. Amazing. Awesome. My next question is, I guess when there are lots and lots of applicants, what can somebody do to really stand out amongst everyone? Like, what are some key features that we're sort of looking for? That's like, hey, this is somebody who I really want to have a conversation with. Anybody starting with E, go for it.
I can start. I'd say in the cover letter, specify your current situation and what you're looking for. Make it seem like you haven't sent the same cover letter to 10 different businesses. Mentioning Mainfreight's name in your cover letter. And yeah, just showing that you've done research, like I talked about before. That's somebody who I definitely want to talk to. And somebody who knows what they want and they know what Mainfreight is about. So then, yeah, that would be something that stands out to me.
I'm going to hand to you, Emily.
I'm happy to answer. Yeah, so pretty similar, really. We just really love to see that people have, for one, done a little bit of research about us. They know what we do, the kind of things that they're interested in. For me, it is very much about that kind of motivation, the drive, the pathway, the direction that they're looking to go, very specifically related to that. It's really about that kind of like passion statement for me that really captures everything, because, we can look at the rest of their CV to see their education and their experience, but where they're wanting to go is kind of the key thing for us.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And I guess the last question that I might ask before we sort of go into the presentation side is just in a couple sentences, why should a graduate obviously apply for your organization? Like, what's the biggest, as the unique selling proposition or the pitch, so to speak, in regards to sort of why they'd want to be working for your organization?
Yeah, so for us, I think flexibility and choose your own career. So sky's the limit. You really can go anywhere within the organization. Yeah, so choose your own career.
Awesome.
Yeah, for Mainfreight, it would be that the opportunities at Mainfreight are endless. It's really just about you, and if you can take up those opportunities, they will be there.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for jumping on. I know we're going to see most of your faces again very soon with the presentation, but thank you for jumping on. It's super valuable, so appreciate it.
Thanks for having us along.
All good. Pleasure.